My name is Regina Dick with Good News Broadcasting and Multimedia. This interview is the digital testimony of Barry Haarde and his personal journey with Jesus Christ in overcoming his long-time battle with the HIV virus. Barry, could you give us a little bit of your history and where you've been?
Yes, I was born in 1965 I was diagnosed at birth with severe hemophilia. And hemophilia is a very rare genetic blood clotting disorder, and it only affects about 1 in 10,000 people. With hemophilia, the blood does not clot properly. We're missing one of the key components in the blood clotting mechanism. And then in the early 70s, some new medications came out, and you've heard the phrase miracle drug. Well, we had that. And this new drug gave us a whole new lease on life, and unfortunately it was still a blood-based product, so it was transmitting viral hepatitis. Hepatitis B, we were all exposed to. What they later came to know as hepatitis C, we were also exposed to that during those years. And then when HIV came along in the late 1970s and entered the blood supply, many of us were exposed to that. Almost 10,000 hemophiliacs just in the U.S. were exposed to both HIV and hepatitis C through the use of our medications. And I was diagnosed in 1985 at the age of 19 when the test came out for HIV, and so was my brother. He tested positive. My sister had married a hemophiliac, and he tested positive as well. And we lost many guys in the early years to AIDS. My brother-in-law passed in 1990 from AIDS, and my brother died in 2007 from hepatitis C, which causes liver failure.
What's been your spiritual experience through this journey?
I didn't think I had anybody to turn to, so I considered suicide. I mean, it was a very difficult period. And I found myself in this situation where I was having to be very clever about the truth. I try not to lie to people because I didn't want to be known as a liar. But I just reached a point where it just built up, and I knew that I had to make some changes. There was still this huge gap in my life. And what do I do now? Do I just go back to work and come home and watch TV? Or what do I do? I felt the need to do something. And to answer your original question, I think I really turned my situation over to Christ fully and completely through that process of going public.
Where do you think Christ is calling you, and how might this affect others?
What I came to realize was that my faith in Christ would only grow through ministry efforts. And the very day that I came to my pastor at my church and disclosed my HIV status and informed him that I was going to be public about this and to get his read on how the church might respond to that, the very same day I was introduced to a lady who was out in the lobby of the church doing services with big banners that said AIDS ministry forming here. And so I knew that hit me in such a way that this is too big to be a coincidence, and this is the direction I needed to go. And I've met many other people on this journey that have survived incredible stories of whether it's drug addiction or surviving child abuse, things like that have come to the restoration service for counseling, and when people really turn their lives around here. And I found a home there for our HIV support group, because we fit with the issues we face in terms of stigma and people judging us. It's very similar to those other problems that people come to the church with, looking for help with.
How do you think people should respond when someone discloses their HIV status to them?
Well, one thing I've noticed that Christians often do is when they hear somebody is struggling with something, they'll say, well, I'll be praying for you. And I almost resent that sometimes, because we let ourselves off the hook by doing that. And I always encourage people to say, don't pray for me, pray with me. And most people who are living with HIV live with a lot of stigma and a lot of other personal problems that they have to contend with at the same time, like recovery from drug addiction. And the thing they want most is just to be accepted and embraced and told that it's okay and that they have a place in the church where they can come. I found that on my way back home from the doctor's office on the day that I got a particularly grim prognosis, I came back to my home, which I worked hard to buy. I have a nice little red sports car in my garage. And I looked around at everything that I had, and it just meant nothing to me. And I try to encourage people, Christians especially, because many times we go to church on Sunday and we go to a Bible study, but we don't go deeper. We don't get into ministry. We don't minister to people who desperately need our help. And I think that going to church on Sunday is an important thing to do, but just going to church doesn't make you a Christian any more than standing in your garage makes you a car. You know, we have to act. And my Christian experience is so much deeper now that I made the decision to get involved and minister to people whose situation is much more difficult than my own. And like I said, my material possessions meant nothing to me at that moment. And I think what we need to do is as healthy people, I don't think we get it a lot of times. And what we need to do is think about that day when we're going to look back and ask ourselves what difference we really made. And I know now that when my time does come, I'll have something to think about while I'm lying in the hospital. And I'm proud of that. And none of that would have happened without my church and my faith that sustained me through those difficult times.